All right, so the midterms are now over, the midterm elections. Now, what we're going to be looking at here is Jimmy Dore has a video that's like a progressive view of the midterms or something like that. And he basically is going to go after the Justice Democrats. He's going to go after our revolution. He's going to basically attempt to take them down, is what he's going to do. And then he's going to bring on this guy who's trying to start this new party. And that guy is going to go even harder at it because obviously he wants a new third party, a people's party. Now, this is going to be some crazy stuff to watch. But you guys have to check this out. We're going to come back and talk about it because this is serious.
So we're still doing some post-mortem on the election, the midterm election. And movement. There's a movement for a People's Party, right? Which is the Bernie political director Nick Brana, who started this organization, and they're trying to get a third party because the majority of people don't belong to either of the two parties, and the overwhelming majority of Americans want a third party, and the Democratic Party, in their view and in my view too, it's not reformable. So I could be wrong about that. I don't think so. But so they put out their analysis, and I thought it was really interesting, and I'm going to share some of it with you, and then we'll talk to the author, okay? So the four leading progressive organizations that emerged from Bernie Sanders' 2016 presidential campaign endorsed Democratic candidates across 46 states. Nearly all the candidates for Congress, governor, lieutenant governor, and Senate lost. That's Our Revolution, Justice Democrats, Brand New Congress, and the Democratic Socialists of America endorsed a combined 107 candidates for Congress this year. So that's not local, that's not state, that's on the federal level for Congress. And so 107 candidates combined of all those organizations. 44 of them won their primaries, and only 12 won their general elections. 12. 5 of those 12 were already in Congress. So that leaves 7. 5 of those 7 were longtime party politicians in line for higher office rather than insurgent candidates. So that leaves 2. Only 2 of them were actually opposed by the party and unseated establishment Democrats in the primaries. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who we had on the show before anybody else had her on their shows, and Ayanna Pressley. There are 435 members of Congress, so it gets worse. Almost every candidate those groups endorsed for governor, lieutenant governor, and Senate lost in the primary or general election. That includes 13 candidates for governor, 5 candidates for lieutenant governor, and 7 candidates for U.S. Senate. Incumbents Bernie Sanders and David Zuckerman were the only ones who won. As a result, the blue wave is a corporate wave that has swept in the same kind of Democrat politicians that drove working people into Donald Trump's arms after 8 years of Obama. When Democrats busy themselves serving the wealthy again, the result will be an even sharper lurch to the authoritarian right. So they're making the case here that it doesn't appear that this revolution is happening. And if you look at the numbers, it's not. But here's what I really like. This is actually, I think, a very good piece of writing. It says, progressives cannot do the same thing year after year, charging headlong into the Democratic Party and expect different results. Breaking the cycle means changing your approach. With 80% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck, healthcare costs rising, student debt piling up, Americans live more precarious lives than they have in generations. Now here, listen to this. This is really good. Working people seek solutions that are proportionate to the size of the problems we face. I'll read that again. Working people seek solutions that are proportionate to the size of the problems we face. So when Nancy Pelosi and Dianne Feinstein say we're going to protect the Affordable Care Act, that is not proportionate to the size of the healthcare problems that we're facing. Because if they do that, they're still ignoring the 30 million people that have no healthcare. They're still ignoring all those people who can't afford their deductible to go see a doctor the first time. A lot of people have $5,000 deductibles. So, and you saw their speeches. We showed it to you, Dianne Feinstein, Nancy Pelosi, the leader, and her speech was empty, nothing. She wants to do unity. Something that looks and feels new down to our bones. That's what people are looking for. Incrementalism and an attempt at rebranding of the Democratic Party are the well-worn paths of the cycle into oligarchy. The Democratic Party is a prison for our movement. It's a wall that keeps us from connecting with people and inspiring the millions who want authentic, credible change. The Democratic Party is a wall. That's what the Democratic Party is, the wall that keeps us progressive from connecting with people and inspiring the millions who want authentic, credible change. Had we had committed ourselves to building it after the 2016 election, we would have either forced the Democratic Party to change in the face of an existential threat, or we would be replacing it and the Republican Party right now. Instead, most of us decided to work inside the Democratic Party, so the cycle continues, voraciously consuming our climate, our economy, our society, and our lives. Now, that's pretty amazing stuff. I just want to now bring in the gentleman. Any comment from my panel? Ron, Steph?
Well, yeah, I mean, you couldn't help but wonder, and there were some, progressive victories, and you couldn't help but wonder, what if we were doing all of this under a totally different umbrella, and all of us had kind of one force ahead? Because something we mentioned on a previous segment that I'll just add before you bring Nick in, progressive policies did very, very well overall.
That's a great point.
Those policies need a face. People aren't making the connection between these blank suit politicians and those types of policies. So it needs a new brand. You wonder what could have happened.
Sorry. When you see people in your community that are in dire straits.
Right.
And when you have people in your life that are paycheck to paycheck, and even as a teacher, we don't have kids. And having a teacher's salary, is I don't know how my friends afford a family. I mean, that's the big issue. And I know that the crisis of healthcare, it still exists. People don't leave positions, their employment, when they want access to something else because they're afraid of their healthcare coverage. And you're right. Every time I see a corporate Democrat get up and speak, it's like, they will not talk about peace. They will not talk about health care for everybody. And they certainly won't talk about climate change.
So now let me bring in Nick Brana. Nick, he's a friend of the show. He's the founder and director of Movement for a People's Party. And the mission of the Movement for a People's Party is building a coalition of working people unions, community groups, student chapters, academics, progressive parties, and left organizations to launch a new People's Party. Please welcome back to the show. It's Nick Brana.
Hey, Jimmy. It's great to be with you.
Hey, Nick. Great to have you here. Now, I really like that article. And so when the Democrats took over Congress, right? So they got, what did they get? 26? We found 26. So they barely squeaked into taking back the Congress. They needed 23. I think they got 26. So it wasn't a blue wave like people were hoping. And what I've been saying is, like, here's the most unpopular, unlikable GOP president in the history of our country, and they barely took back the House. And I think it's because they don't have a vision for the future. And what you just said was really interesting. Would you like to expand on anything?
Yeah, and so I want to start by saying that it's not whatsoever the fault of those who are working inside the Democratic Party, those who are working in those four organizations, Our Revolution, Justice Democrats, Brand New Congress, DSA, that we got these kinds of results. I know many of them. You know, they really worked. They put their heart into it, and it was a very genuine effort that they have been making. But I'm a social scientist, Jimmy. I studied sociology at William and Mary, and what you do in the scientific method is that you evaluate the results of a particular action, experiment, test after having done it. That's how science works. And so what we need to do now, Jimmy, is we need to sit back and we need to soberly analyze the results of our strategy. In 2016, we embarked upon a mission to give the progressive majority in this country, as you said, the large majority of Americans are progressive when you go down the issues. And so we embarked on a mission to give them an electoral face and representation. Now, most people chose the Democratic Party. The bulk of the movement chose the Democratic Party as the vehicle to attempt to do that. That's not the only path. And as the evidence shows, increasingly so, and historical, that is not whatsoever the best path either. And so I think what we need right now, before we rush headlong again into the Democratic Party, into yet another cycle down the spiral of oligarchy, is we need to pause. We need to see what the results were. We need to do an honest tally. And then we need to ask ourselves if this is the best approach.
So I'm told that most of the people who were won or flipped districts and won were Medicare for all. Is that, did you know? So aren't most of the incoming new people Medicare for all people?
The Democrats have campaigned on Medicare for all every time they're out of power. Every time. Every time. And then when they get into power, they don't do it. What about all the states where they have power right now?
I
And
know.
they're not passing Medicare for all, and they're blocking it. What about when Obama was in office? You know, this is a routine for the Democrats. They know how popular it is. They campaign on it. They get into office. They abandon it. Some of the progressive candidates, the endorsed progressive candidates, Andrew Gillum, for example, Gavin Newsom, they dropped it the minute they won their primary. So this is typical.
So I make that point that I live in California, the bluest of the blue state. They've had a super majority in their legislature. Plus, we had Jerry Brown, a Democrat governor. We still have fracking. We don't have free college, and we don't have Medicare for all. In fact, there was a Democrat, Anthony Rendon, who blocked it in the House. So, and he just got reelected. And the Democratic Party and the bluest state in the Union, California, is sending back to Washington Dianne Feinstein and Nancy Pelosi. So this, we're in real dire straits. Like, I'm not just trying to be a contrarian. This isn't working. So I would love for the Justice Democrats to have been able to take over, and I would love for them to be able to board the ship and reform the Democratic Party with Bernie Sanders. And that would have been fantastic. It just, like you said, your social, it just doesn't, it's not happening. This idea that that would mean that the donors would just then let go of the party, and that's never going to happen, right?
Yeah, it's really not. There's now going to be, somewhere around 225 Democrats in Congress. Okay, so the number of Democrats who won, who were endorsed by those four organizations, is 12. Like you pointed out earlier, and 5 of them are incumbents. And most of the ones who are incoming, they were taking the position of someone who used to be a progressive anyway. It's like John Conyers, who stepped out. Okay, they're replacing his seat. Or Keith Ellison, who stepped away to run for, replacing his seat. And so it's just, objectively, it's not happening, and the really, I would say the frustrating part, but also the inspiring part, is that we don't have to do this. This is not the only approach.
So now it's 2 more years, excuse me, until 2020. How much longer till we get an actual viable third party?
Well, I hope, Jimmy, that what does not happen is that, the election cycles in this country are different from any other country, essentially. It's endless. You're always in the midst of an election cycle. And, what happens with the progressive movement here is that things continually get worse. as we described in the article, climate change gets worse, inequality gets worse, student debt piles up, healthcare access decreases, the costs increase. Okay, so that creates a kind of like a frantic, feel inside the progressive movement and the progressive community. And I think, oh my God, we need a solution that's going to happen in like 2 seconds. And there's an election coming up in less than 2 years, always an election coming up in less than 2 years. And so we're in this burning house, and, we just kind of like got this, we have this gasoline. Maybe we should just keep throwing it at it, keep throwing it at the house. Or we're in a ditch, just keep digging. The solution, oh my gosh, now the ditch is deeper, dig faster, so we actually need to think about what it is that we're doing,
So I actually mistakenly said that there was 15 total going to the federal Congress that was elected. I said there were 13 representatives and 2 senators. I was mistaken. Apparently it's 12 representatives, and it is 1 senator. The other person who I thought was a senator was actually elected lieutenant governor. And I misread the amount of people for the House. But that does not change anything that's said in here, because all it's doing is slightly altering the numbers, which has an overall conclusion. Wow. So, oh boy, Jimmy Dore has hit somehow an even further low at this point. So, as you guys know, I have been a massive critique of the statement of the progressive takeover of the Democratic Party is not happening, which is a quotation from Jimmy Dore. He believes that essentially we need to directly, forget essentially, literally, abandon the Democratic Party completely. We need to start a new third party because, this is ineffective, and, this and that, and it's utterly ridiculous. But this is honestly a whole new low, because this is a lot worse. So basically, if you don't know about the People's Party movement, this guy was the guy. Like, they started like a draft Bernie, where they tried like drafting Bernie, and he didn't want anything to do with it because he knew it was a waste of time. And so basically, they're trying to start this new third party. And what do they do after the midterm elections? They are going for the throat of the progressive takeover Democratic Party. They are going for the throat of the Justice Democrats. They're going for the throat of our revolution, etc., etc. And right there in the beginning, by the way, Jimmy Dore says, it's not reformable, meaning abandon the Democratic Party, abandon the Justice Democrats, abandon our revolution, etc., etc., etc. So that is right off the bat. Okay, that is the first strike, which again, we've already had that strike for a long time now at this point. So this guy actually, this article that they wrote on their own website, the number is, they said that it's 12. Now, it was actually 13, so they got the number wrong in the first place. But what this guy is trying to do, and this is how much of a conniver this guy is. The dude is trying to take all the steps possible to minimize the victories of the Justice Democrats. So he goes, 5 of them were incumbents. This many were, they weren't opposed, or this many people were facing, open races or something like that. And this guy is totally missing the point. So you're talking about a lot of important wins going on. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, of course, has exploded the movement, absolutely massively catapulted the movement. She has been huge in the progressive movement. In fact, I would argue she's made the most change, because if you remember when she won, the news media was plastered with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for a while. And so she's really responsible for a lot of our outreach. Now, she replaced the second in line for leadership for corporate Democrats. That was Joe Crowley. That in and of itself is a victory, by the way. That in and of itself is a massive victory. Just that alone, even if you just take that, that's a huge victory, because not only did you take out the second in line to Nancy Pelosi, but you just replaced a corporate Democrat with a massively, massively progressive, real lefty. So that alone on its own is huge. So 13 representatives who were endorsed, not 12, 13 who were endorsed by either JD, Our Revolution, Brand New Congress, or DSA, right? 13 of them won. That is a lot for the first 2 years, right? 13 people won. How many people do you want to win in the first 2 years? What do you think this is? Do you think this is some kind of, how many do you think we're going to win? 30? How many do you think we're going to win? What do you think this is? You think that this is going to just magically, like in 2 years, these guys are so impatient and angers me so much. 13 people got elected, okay? 5 of these people were incumbents. That makes our movement stronger. That doesn't make our movement weaker. That doesn't take away anything from our movement. That makes our movement stronger because it means we strengthened our movement. We strengthened our caucus. We strengthened our presence within the Democratic Party. So the idea of attacking it on those grounds is so dumb. But there were a bunch of actual really, really good wins. Obviously, AOC, Ayanna Pressley, Deb Haaland, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, a bunch of huge wins, okay? If you go back, okay, and I always say this because context is important. If you go back and you look at my first, thoughts about Justice Democrats, I stated I would be surprised, or honestly, I was conversing with people whether or not they would even get a single person in Congress. And do you want to know why? How many people of the Green Party elected to federal office? How many? 0. Not a single one. Not a one. Not a single one. It is insane that these people have never gotten a single person, not even one, elected to federal Congress. We just got 13 elected. By the way, that's just the House. This number is 0 for anyone in all of the federal government. If you throw in the Senate, that's 15. Okay, because you have Bernie Sanders, and I forgot the other guy's name actually, but he was also in the Senate. So you're talking about 15 W's, 1-5, double digits, right? Double digits. How many people have the Green Party elected to the federal government? 0, not a one, none. I can't, look, if you look at the Wikipedia page for the Green Party of the United States, you go down to the office holders category, it concludes with this: no nominee of the Green Party has been elected to office in the federal government. And you, Jimmy Dore, oh man, Jimmy Dore, the great progressive, right? This is who we're talking about here. The awesome progressive who's so progressive that he's all about progressivism, right? This guy isn't satisfied with 15 Justice Democrat wins, massive ones, by the way, with the real movement growing, when the Green Party hasn't even got any of them. So the idea of being like, oh, you only got 15 wins? Oh my God, dude, that's so weak. You're fucking dumb. That's the thing. You're stupid. You are ridiculously stupid, because how can you claim that the progressive takeover of the Democratic Party is failing when it just elected 15 people to office, to federal office? By the way, we'll get into more about what they got done compared to the Green Party and other third parties. The Green Party has had 0. They haven't even been able to get one, not a single. How do you scratch that off and just scratch that away? It is impossible to do that. And so these guys are under this delusion, and I'm not even trying to, I'm trying to explain that 15 wins in Congress, 13 in the House and 2 in the Senate is massive, okay? Massive. And there were a bunch of primary wins as well. And so 15 wins in Congress, that is significant for the first go around. The first 2 years, you now have 15 people in federal Congress, 13 of them in the House and 2 of them in the Senate, who are either endorsed by Justice Democrats, Our Revolution, Brand New Congress, or the DSA. One of those 3, okay? And you're going to tell me, you have the gall to tell me and everybody who's worked their ass off for this, because I think about all the volunteers. But here's the point. You're going to try and tell us, oh, your movement's not working, bro. We just got 15 people elected to federal office. You've gotten 0. The Green Party has not gotten a single person. So how do you have the gall, Jimmy Dore, to make a video saying, yep, Democratic Party's not reformable, bro? We just took out the second in line in corporate lining. Okay, we literally just took him out with a massively progressive congresswoman who has catapulted the movement beyond belief. It is unacceptable. This absolute destruction and just disgusting attack on math. How can you reconcile those numbers? The progress made was really, really significant. Those, by the way, those are just federal seats. How many people in the Green Party actually hold office in state legislatures, not federal legislatures? Okay, because the states have their own Senate and House. How many do they have? Two. I can count them on my fingers. One hand, I can count them. 1, 2. That's how many people they have in the state. All you have to do is go to Our Revolution's page and look at how many people won who are in the state legislatures. Just state representative after state representative after state representative. It's an insane amount of people who have been elected to state legislatures, okay? They got way more than the Green Party did in state legislatures. You can go and look at the numbers right now, okay? So not only are we making progress in the federal government, but we're also making progress on the local and the state level, which is also important. Don't underscore that, because the state is extremely important, as you guys should know. The state government is huge. Obviously, it determines, interstate laws. So it is massively, massively important. So not only has the Justice Democrats walloped the Green Party in terms of wins, right? Not only that, but they also have walloped them in state legislatures, not just federal legislatures. So how do you reconcile those kinds of mathematics that simply do not add up? They don't make any sense, okay? And so these guys want a new third party. How dumb is that? Not only do you don't even want to try the Green Party? Are you insane? The Green Party at least already has ballot access in 40-something states. They don't even want to use that. They want to have another party. They want to have a whole separate party where you have to go through all of that. That's what these guys want. They don't even want to go switch to the Green Party, which has already been a massive failure. They want to start up a new party because that's the way forward. You guys are sitting here and only getting 15 wins in federal Congress and a shit ton in the state legislatures. How much of a douchebag do you have to be to even utter those words in a sentence? What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? This is some kind of this is an assault on math is what this is, okay? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And this guy is here attempting to throw a hatchet. And who I'm talking about is this Nick Brana guy. This guy has the gall. This really pissed me off because this guy is a conniver. Look at what he's doing. You know what he's doing? He's faking. He's trying to be like, oh, well, Jimmy, I'm a social scientist, He's trying to be like, oh, like he's almighty. He's like, oh, well, I'm a social scientist, and I look at the scientific method, and we need to take a sobering look at the numbers. All right, buddy, let's take a sobering look at the numbers. I'd love to do that. I love taking sober look at numbers. Nothing better than that. It is the best thing in the world. You know what the conclusion from a sobering, legitimate, honest look at the numbers is? Justice Democrats, 15 congressionally elected members of the federal legislature. That's not counting state legislatures, which Green Party only holds 2 people in, by the way, currently, right now, speaking. Think about that. You're trying to tell me you're giving us a sober look at numbers? You are claiming you're giving us a sober look at numbers. No, buddy. What you're doing is you have, at least be open about it. Don't lie to us, okay? Be honest. Don't make stuff up, okay? You're trying to act as if you're giving us a legit sobering look where it's, this very honest, legitimate look at things. That's not what you're doing. That's not what you're doing. You're twisting the numbers, not providing context, and overall being a smug douchebag in the process and trying to say, oh, well, the Justice Democrats, clearly it can't reform the Democratic Party. They have failed. All they got into federal office was 15 representatives, 13 in the House and 2 in the Senate. Oh my God, what a failure. You guys suck, dude. We need a third party. Do you have any idea how fraudulent that is? You're claiming that that's a sobering look? Let's take a real sobering look. How many Green Party officials have been elected to federal office? 0. None. How many languages do I have to tell it to you? Nada. Nadie. How many times? What other way can I put it? Nobody. No one. 0. Zilch. Nada. I don't know how else to put it to you, dude. This is a basic look at mathematics. Very basic stuff. This guy is a social scientist, and he's trying to give us his sobering look at math. I'll give you a sobering math that only requires a first grade level of understanding of mathematics. Elementary mathematics. 0 for Green Party, 15 for the Justice Democrats. How many years have the Green Party had? Had like a decade, right? How many years have, over a decade now, actually like 2 decades or more. How many have the Justice Democrats had? 2. You know what we did in those 2 years? We unseated the second in line massive corporatist Democrat, Joe Corrupt Man Crowley, the guy who was next in line for speaker. Remember, Trump talked about it. Trump made fun of the guy for losing. Trump made fun of him. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a real progressive, took over office and replaced that guy. What did you guys do? What did the Green Party do? What did the progressive third party do? What did you guys get done? Nothing. None. I don't know how otherwise. You hold 2 current seats in state legislature, and the amount that just got elected by who were endorsed by Our Revolution, Brand New Congress, and Justice Democrats is massive. It absolutely owns the Green Party's numbers. It's not even close. I can count the amount of state representatives you have on my the Green Party has on my one hand. 2 fingers is all I need to count it. So how dare you give me this fake, sobering look at numbers when you're trying to be a smug douchebag trying to push your narrative. Don't pretend to give me your sobering look while you have this, this goal in mind of totally abandoning the Democratic Party like a complete lunatic and just going full on straying away from third party. But when you think about these things, it gets really dumb when you start to think. The deeper you think about this, the dumber the idea becomes. Think about it like this, right? Beto O'Rourke. Beto O'Rourke is responsible for flipping multiple, I think like 8 districts from red to blue. So first of all, the idea that Beto O'Rourke's loss was an L in any way, shape, or form is false, completely false. And I talked about this before the election. The idea of Texas coming that close, okay, with Beto and Ted Cruz, not only is that a bad sign for the Republican Party in the future, but what that means is that just the fact that it was that close makes it so that basically it was already a W. It'd be like California, a senator in California, a red senator really, really challenging like their opponent. That is some serious stuff right there, okay? Beto was he was a real progressive. He was endorsed. I believe it was by Justice Democrats he was endorsed by, I think. And so he was a real progressive. Look at how close he came. What is your response to that? Your response is, whatever, throw it aside. Let's start a new third party. Are you insane? Like, what is wrong with you? How do you come to that logical conclusion? Can anyone explain this to me? There is no logical conclusion to be came to through that logic. There is none. You have a race that's super close. And again, I want to remind you, Beto's responsible for flipping multiple, I think it was something like eight seats in the House blue because of what he did with his campaign. And you're going to tell us the route to go is a new third party? Are you insane? What is wrong with you? That doesn't make any logical sense. It doesn't even make any basic or common sense. Look at Andrew Gillum, okay? Andrew Gillum. Now, I don't know, maybe you'll say that, he stepped away from saying Medicare for all. I think the dude was an actual progressive, okay? That's what I think. And either way, in the context of that race, he's eons above Rick DeSantis, okay? Or not Rick, Ron DeSantis. And he's eons and eons and eons and eons better than Ron DeSantis is, right? Look at how close Gillum got. We still don't even fully know the outcome of that election. You know why? Because I believe the deficit's like 37K. It's going to have a recount. Automatic recount is going to be triggered, right? And so the answer to that is, let's start a new third party. Let's split up the votes. And that's your solution? That's your solution? What kind of logic is that? What kind of logic is that? There is no logic going on in any of this thought. This idea of starting a new third party, not only is this video a dumb way of undermining everything that has been accomplished by the Justice Democrats and all of the progressive coalition, or the progressive groups and coalitions and stuff who have helped elect these people, but it's just generally speaking a dumb idea altogether. Logically speaking, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Also, another thing is this too. The idea that having 13 representatives in Congress, in the House, and then 2 senators in the Senate being bad is possibly the dumbest thing ever, and I'll explain to you why. So, when you have those people in there, right, those people are then going to be able to actually influence the current Democrats in place right now. I believe it was Mike from the Humanist Report who sent out this tweet. I can't remember for sure. Maybe it was someone else. They said, Bernie, look at what Bernie has done now. He just got Amazon to raise their minimum wage to $15. Imagine what he could do if he was president. Perfect statement that perfectly encapsulates everything that we're talking about here. Bernie and Ro Khanna together with the Stop Bezos Act was able to get that douchebag to raise the minimum wage to $15. Okay? That is exactly what I mean. If we have a bigger caucus in the Democratic Party, not only are things like that going to get done, but we're actually going to get more legislation through. We're going to influence the other Democrats. Just like we had Kamala Harris turn on her lefty side, at least ostensibly, because that's better than nothing, right? She endorsed and she co-sponsored the Medicare for All bill proposed by Bernie Sanders. So just that alone, you're talking about pushing other Democrats more left. If you want to start a third party, that's not going to help it in any way, shape, or form. That's not going to do it. That's not going to get things done the way that the Democrats are able, the progressives in the Democratic Party are actually able to get stuff done. And do you know why? It's because if you start a new third party, the Democrats aren't going to like you. They're going to hate you. And you know what happens when they hate you? It's the dumb logic of the idea of, you know, oh, well, Hillary's going to get more stuff done because she's more pragmatic. Dude, the Republicans hate nothing more than the word Clinton. Okay, maybe Obama, but I still think Clinton. And so you're telling me that she's going to get more stuff done? No, that's dumb. It doesn't make sense. This is the same thing. They would hate the third party and they would get nothing actually done through Congress, and it simply would not happen. And so the influence of these 13 Democrats we now have and the power of having a legit caucus in the House is massive. You're talking about starting up a real coalition to really be able to make moves and actually do things and actually get stuff done, things that these guys don't want to do. These guys don't want to get anything done. These guys are just now becoming insane. I don't know, lunatics, just destroying everything, attempting to destroy everything, I should say. We've made all this progress, and Jimmy Dore's response to it is basically time to take a hammer to it, you know? Oh, you got 13 representatives? Oh, you moron, it's been 2 years. And that's huge. No one can take away from how many wins that was. No one can take away from that. We now have a real progressive movement in the House and in the Senate, and we are going to continue to build. So here's the worst thing, okay? This part was really, really ridiculous. So Jimmy Dore asks this guy, he says, well, how long would it take to build a viable third party? And what is this guy's answer? This guy sidesteps the question. This guy legitimately just 100% sidesteps it. Totally sidesteps it. He doesn't even answer the question. He doesn't answer how long it's going to take. You know what he does? He does the worst logic I've ever heard in my life. Because what he thinks he's doing is he thinks that basically we don't really have a movement to grow. What he's saying is, oh, we just keep going every two years there's an election and it just ends up failing. No, you doofus. We just started this movement 2 years ago, and the movement is going to continue and grow. We have a movement already that is growing. And so, you know why he didn't answer how long it would take to start a third party? It's because it's dauntingly long to actually get someone to win. Hear me out. Not only do you want a new party, you don't even want the Green Party. You want a different party. The Green Party, which at least is already established. It's been a complete failure, but at least it's established. They've had no wins federal election-wise. They've barely had any wins, in the state legislature. Right now in office, they have two. Can you believe that, guys? we're talking about the bar is so low for the Green Party, they have as many state legislature seats as I can count on one hand, which is 2. I need 2 fingers to count them. Think about how low that bar is. Think about it like this. If you hear that Our Revolution candidate won and they go, oh, it's a state house, you go, oh, well, dude, the Green Party has to bank on that and like 2 of those wins. 2 of them. That's how low the bar is. And you're talking about not even switching to this joke of a party, which is the Green Party, which has gotten nothing done. It's a total failure, complete failure. But you want to make a whole new party? Oh my God, you're a hilarious person, dude. You are the funniest person I've ever heard in my entire life. And here's another dumb thing too. Here's another very stupid thing. There's a really big difference between intra-district races and inter-district races. And for that matter, intrastate and interstate. So what do I mean by that? National elections and statewide and district elections are far, far different. So winning a House race with a new third party in a district is going to be a lot harder than getting a statewide one or a national one. Because when you have that little pocket of an area, it's going to be more difficult. Do you see what I'm saying? And so because there will be less people to vote into that, and so you're talking about the country is pretty separated in a lot of different lines, and you guys know this. And so it would be a massive, massive failure, beyond massive. Saying massive proportions, honestly, is an understatement. I honestly cannot even explain it. But this guy not only sidestepped the question of how long it would take, because if he gives the answer, to be quite frank with you, if you wanted to get even one representative in office, you're looking at like 10 years, because you're talking about you have to get ballot access, you have to get established. Establishing a party is not easy, okay? You can look at it. Just look it up. Even Kyle Kulinski said the reason why they didn't do a third party was because it was a dumb idea. They analyzed it and said, hey, you know what? Starting a third party is kind of just maiming us, like Cell got maimed by Vegeta's Final Flash. Just imagine getting maimed like that and then going, yeah, progressivism. You're stupid. That's dumb. It's not going to work. It's going to backfire on you. It is not going to help. And so that's why they decided that it's more effective if they go through the route of taking over the Democratic Party, because it will actually lead to tangible results. Okay. And more to expand on the point that I was making earlier, right? So you're talking about this new third party being created. You're talking about taking all these people, and when you're talking about getting representative races won in these districts, you have a chunk of people who will know about this third party, or who will be fans about this third party. But to actually get a win, you're going to have a concentrated amount of people actually vote for that third party, which is tough in those little pockets, because most people are not going, who are, knowing this third party, are not going to live near each other. And so that's why the Greens can't win anything. They have gotten 0 federal seats in Congress in all of its history. The Green Party has been active for like 2 decades and has gotten no federal seats ever. And so this guy is such a massive, massive hypocrite, and a question dodger for that matter as well. Let me make that clear, because he thinks that this thing that we're doing, this strategy of the Justice Democrats and progressives taking over the Democratic Party, this guy thinks he's in some deluded world where he thinks that it will be faster to go through a third party route than it would be to actually get a Democratic takeover. Are you kidding me? Are you what is wrong with you? I don't even know. How can I even respond to something that stupid? It's impossible. It's not possible to respond to something that dumb. Although I'll subsequently go on to do so. So I guess I'm wrong about that. But the point here being is, if you're being impatient, I pointed out this hypocrisy about Jimmy Dore earlier in other videos that I made about his nonsense about abandoning the Democratic Party, abandoning Justice Democrats, and everything that we've worked to create. It's so hypocritical, because the truth is that the amount of time it will take, the amount of time that will elapse before there's real change, right? So think about it like this. We just got 13 people in the House and 2 people in the Senate, right? 13 people in the House, 2 people in the Senate. So what does that mean? That means that the Greens have had 0. And I just told you that it's going to take like a real decade to actually get a representative in. Just think about how hard it is to get progressives elected right now. Imagine that like exponentially to the 99th power. Think about it like that. And you're talking about, oh, you have all these third-party supporters all across the nation. But are there enough in a pocket in a district to actually vote in that candidate? No, you don't. So you're going to take at least a decade to even really get one win, even one. And if you're talking about getting 13, do you have any idea how long it's going to take to do that? Holy smokes, you're looking at, they won't get 13 representatives for, I think, honestly, like 3 decades. I mean, how many have the Greens gotten so far? 2. They have 0 in federal. Okay, we're talking federal here. They've had 0 federal elected members of Congress, federal Congress. And so, and they've been in service for about 2 decades at this point. You remember Ralph Nader in 2000. So they have been a colossal failure for 2 decades. And these guys want to start a whole separate party, which has the potential to be an even bigger failure, by the way. It won't pan out to anything. The idea of minimizing all of these wins that we have, in which we now have a real movement growing in our Congress of progressivism. We have serious names out there. And again, big ups to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, man, because she really catapulted the progressive movement to take over the Democratic Party and real progressivism. She was the one who really, really catapulted that. And I say that because I vividly remember when she was victorious. She emerged victorious in defeating Joe Crowley, the corrupt boy, who was second in line to take the House speaking spot. You guys recall that she absolutely became huge in the media. The media could not get enough of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So big ups to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez because she has catapulted this movement. Everyone who helped get her elected has catapulted this movement. And by the way, if you guys saw, and I know it's a very, very long-winded rant. I don't think I've ever gone a rant this long in a while. But Jimmy, he threw in there saying, you know, he just sort of randomly threw in talking about Ocasio-Cortez. He said, you know, I had her on before anybody. You know why he said that? He knows about the criticism coming from the sphere of criticism. I'm not saying he's seen my videos of criticizing him, because there's no way to be sure of that. But he knows the criticism of it. And that you just saw there was a clear defense of himself, because he knows that people are critiquing him for the stupidity that he is now spewing of the idea of creating a whole separate party, not even going through the Green Party route, but instead starting a whole nother party. And this guy is, I don't even know what else to say at this point, but the idea that it is more in any way, shape, or form efficient, I want to make this very clear, more efficient to start a new party, not even the Green Party, which has been a colossal failure, to start a whole new party, is the dumbest thing on planet Earth. There's also another element that I haven't got into, and I'm glad I remember because I want to get into it now. What do you do throughout all this time? That decade that we're talking about, what do you do? What do you do for that decade while you're trying to get these third parties up and growing? This new party, the People's Party that Bernie didn't want anything to do with. What are you going to do? You're just going to let the Republicans win? You're going to split the vote? What kind of geniusness is that? What kind of a genius does that? What kind of a smart move, smart political strategy is that? What do you do in that decade where you can't get anything off the ground because you're a new party? You have to get ballot access. You have to get the word out. Getting anything in the House and Senate is very difficult. The Senate is a statewide race, so it's going to be very hard to do that because people in the state, there's probably not going to be enough people in the state to take over the Democratic or the Republican Party. And in the House races, you're talking about there's no way there's going to be a concentrated amount of People's Party people ready to vote come in and vote. No chance. No chance whatsoever. It's not happening. It's not going to happen. And it's not going to happen for at least like 10 years to get even one win. And what is my data on that? Well, first of all, we already know all the struggles. And again, Kyle and co at Justice Democrats came to the conclusion of that upon analyzing, doing an analysis of Justice Democrats and seeing, okay, what is the best route to go about here, because we need real progressivism. The Democratic Party simply does not suffice. And so they came to the conclusion we need to just take over the Democratic Party, because going a third party route, the way he explained it, which I thought was perfect, was take a hammer and just hit your leg and then go on a marathon. Not a smart thing to do in anyone's brain, not even a first, well, I don't want to say that because they might, but what do you do for that extended period of time? Are you just going to let the Republicans keep taking office? What do you do in presidential elections? Are you just going to let the Republicans take office? Because as we know right now, Ruth Bader Ginsburg just broke 3 ribs. If Donald Trump gets to appoint 3 Supreme Court justices to the Supreme Court, it's over. It's a wrap. That is total destruction. And do you know why? It's because what happens when we have, which we already have, by the way, we have a crap ton of people in the Democratic Party who are real progressives, and they pass the legislation. You know what's going to happen? It's going to get challenged, go to the appellate court, then go to another appellate court, and it's going to get heard by the Supreme Court. Or, heck, the Supreme Court might just hear it off the bat. They might just hear it off the bat. And what is the conclusion that Alito, Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and all these guys, all these conservatives on the court, what do you think the conclusion they're going to come to? Medicare for all gets passed. President Bernie Sanders signs it into law, right? What do you think is going to happen in the Supreme Court? Remember what happened to Obamacare. It barely passed, just barely, by a swing vote. By a swing vote, okay? I believe it was Justice Kennedy was a swing vote. And also, they took down, Obama wanted to do this idea where you basically go, okay, if you don't accept the Medicaid expansion, which a bunch of governors did, Republican governors didn't, by the way, they totally denied it, which was dumb because they made access worse and more expensive. And we saw, if you look at the list of rising premiums, which Republicans like to cite, the vast majority of those states are actually those states that didn't accept the Medicaid expansion. It's like, whoa, your healthcare is more expensive because you didn't expand Medicaid? You know, the expanding brain meme just all over the place. So the point here being is that the Supreme Court plays a very, very vital role. We almost had Obamacare struck down. Imagine what it would mean for Medicare for all. So you're talking about not only a plan that is going to thwart something that is currently successful, but you're talking about going a route that's not going to work. It's not going to be successful. Your third-party idea is shit. It's garbage. It's trash. Throw it in the garbage can. Move on, because your idea is complete. It's horrible. And by the way, this is hurting the movement, by the way. And there are quite a few, I now like reading Jimmy Dore's comments because the lunacy that exists in the comment section is truly baffling to me. I don't know what happened to Jimmy's comment section. It was at least what I used to think was pretty rational. I guess that's sort of left for Kyle's channel now, but I went in the comment section on that video to see what the position was of people, because I want to see what kind of stuff is being received and sort of believed by his fans at this point. And someone made some comment about me. Funny enough, he was like, oh, the Progressive Voice TMZ guy's going to make a video on this flame war. And it's like, all right, dude. So hold this L, because you're not actually making an argument. You're just throwing out ad homs, which I love a good ad hom, but an ad hom isn't an ad hom if it's not actually the basis of the argument. All the stuff that I just stated is based in logic, reasoning, and fact, and then I throw in you're a dummy, blah, 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 because it's fun. Your entire argument is just based off, TMZ. Hey, bro, hold this L. Hold this L. Take it. Shove it up your ass. Take the L. Put it there. Because you can't present an actual argument. You just go, oh, flame war this, flame war that. And I saw that a lot on my Jimmy Dore critique videos. Jimmy Dore fans going, oh, why should he debate Cedar? It's like, dude, are you kidding me? You make an argument and then you run away and hide. Well, what is that? And he just, oh man, it's ridiculous. But anyways, the point here being, this idea of a third party not only is dumb, but the idea, the proposal that the Justice Democrats is unsuccessful is really, really stupid. It's very stupid. And Jimmy is dead wrong on this. He's horrendously wrong. If somehow this third party goes through, we are done for. the real progressives will not manifest anywhere because there will be no third-party success. They don't even want to go with the Green Party, which is a colossal failure. They want to start up a whole new colossal failure, which will eat up more time. And in the meantime, we're going to have the whole SCOTUS. All of SCOTUS is going to be conservative. We're going to have unanimous decisions. We're heading into a Lochner-era court. We're going to have decisions on, oh, man, could you imagine? I don't think we'll ever go back to that bad. But, I mean, a unanimous conservative SCOTUS court? Holy smokes. Obviously, it's an exaggeration that would happen. Actually, I take that back. If we were to go through with this guy's plan, yeah, it's going to happen because you're going to split the vote every damn election, and it's a wrap then. I mean, SCOTUS, bye-bye. Everything is bye-bye, and they're just going to keep losing. Not just the SCOTUS because we'll lose presidential elections. We'll lose, like, the left will lose in general everywhere. So I want to make this very clear. This video that they made propose very dumb ideas that don't work in any shape or form, and to somehow be able to be in a deluded reality in which you are able to actually rationalize this in any way, you have to be really delusional. Honestly, you have to forego facts. You have to forego history, precedent, like the Green Party being a colossal failure and the Justice Democrats being way, 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 way more successful than any third party, like the Green Party being a colossal failure. You have to forego everything. Basic logic. That guy is a total fraud, by the way. He just goes, he just says, he was asked a question about how long it would take, and he doesn't even answer the question. He just goes, oh, well, you're just digging yourself a hole. How are we digging ourselves a hole? We're growing a progressive movement. You want to destroy it. How are we the ones digging the hole? That's you, not us, dude. So, anyway, this is very, very bad.